there, Joy here. Excuse me for one sec while I jiggle with my camera. It's been a while since I did a video, partially because of camera issues, but I figured it was about time. I've been a little lazy with the whole getting married and thing. Congratulations, me. So I haven't gotten around to it, and I really wanted to. So today I'm going to show you a couple things I've made. And I'm not going to show you how to make them because I did it on a blog post recently, but it's led to something else that I want to show you. So what I started doing is I started making, as my Christmas gift, every year I pick some sort of like a theme to make my Christmas gifts by, and it makes it easier if you make multiples of the same kind of thing than it is to make a separate, different type of gift for each person. You can do it customizable. Is that a word? Probably not. You can customize it to the person you want to give it to. So everything is different. They're not all getting exactly the same thing. But it just makes your life easier if you do the same. So this year's topic that I picked, or theme that I picked, was beading, beaded brooches and appliques. I think this was the first one that I did. I'll bring that up here so that you can see it. It's done on stiffened felt and sewn, different kinds of beads have been sewn onto it. Then I made a second one like this. And these two aren't going to be a brooch per se. There's not going to be a pin or anything on it. I'm going to sew these directly to my gift because the narrow points and things make them a little less stiff, a little more delicate. So these ones are going to go on a toque. I'm going to buy a nice black toque. I'm going to sew them on the front of the toque. I'm going to do the same thing with the next one that I made. This is the letter E, obviously. And again, because it's got the long points, it's not as solid as I would like it to be if I was going to put a pin on it and make a brooch. But I quite like the way they turned out anyways. I think it's going to look really sharp when it's on a black background. Then I got going and I made these. There's two that are similar. I'll put that up there so you can see it a little better. I made 3 separate leaves and beaded them, again on a background of felt, and join them together, and because it's large there's 2 pins on the back. And this one is similar, different kind of beadwork on it because it's a different shape of leaf. And again, 3 of them joined together and then with a pin on the back. Then I made one for me because I really like shells and I was having so much fun with the beading that I did this one that is 3 different types of shell. It's a little harder to pick out the design because it's all pretty much white, clear, and gold. Used to make that. It's probably going to end up on a big floppy hat that I'm going to take on vacation with me. I won't show you how to make those, like I said, because I did a blog post with the tutorial, and this is the one that I made on the blog post. It's not a video tutorial because I've been having camera issues, so I did it by just taking photos of each step and posting it on my blog. The blog is new, so if you're going to the YouTube channel to watch my things, you can also find crafty things that I haven't been able to videotape going onto the blog. And the blog is at http:// right? // and then it is Surviving Life Over 40. Also, it's down there as Adventures in Menopause, because that's where I am. It's so exciting. Anyways, the way I'm telling you this because this is what got me going on today's project. These turned out so nice for the little brooch pins and things that when I decided I wanted to give them as gifts, which was the plan anyways, I decided they needed something really nice to show them off. I mean, I don't want to just stick this in any box. And jewelry boxes and things like that probably aren't going to fit. So I had boxes stashed away. I don't normally stash boxes specifically for Christmas. But as I said, I got married this year. And I used these for wedding favors. whole bunch of different kinds of chocolates, put them in little baggies for wedding favors. And I was about to throw out, because I have like 5 of them, I was about to throw out the boxes into the recycle like I normally do, except when I took the lid off and I took out the little plastic piece that was in it, the molded piece, I found this. And I thought, well, isn't that like a nicely constructed, fancy little box? And so I couldn't bear to throw it away. I kept it, not knowing what I was going to do with it. And when I was trying to figure out how to package these, I went, you know, bing, little light went on, and I said, okay, well, I can do this up as a nice little display box for these. And the way I'm going to do that is that I'm going to cover the top and the bottom in wrapping paper, like I normally would. And then I'm going to line the center. Now, I was going to line it in felt. I have a sheet of felt. I was going to kind of, you know, line it and the sides of it with. But I'm not done beading yet. I have some more beading I want to do, and I need the felt possibly for backings for more. So instead of using a full piece of felt, like I would have normally, I've cut a little piece of felt off. I'll explain why in a second. And instead I'm going to use construction paper, because it doesn't have to be anything fancy for their inside. It just needs to be a nice backdrop for the piece. So as you can see, I've measured already and marked it out on my paper to make it a little quicker. I measured this size here, and then the same length deep enough to go here, 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 and here. So the inside, sides, and center will be the white, and the outside will have the wrapping paper on it. It can be any wrapping paper, but you do need to make sure if you're doing something like this that it's thick enough that the writing won't show through. I buy mine from Costco. It's usually pretty thick, so I'm not worried about it. If I was worried about it, I could either find thicker paper, or I could just paint the box cover white first. It's an extra step I don't really want to do, so I'm not going to do it. The reason, though, that I still want to use some felt, and what I've done instead of the whole piece of felt, is I've cut out a little heart-shaped piece of felt. And I'm going to glue around, I'm not going to put any in the center, I'm going to put some hot glue around it and stick it to the center of this piece. And because I want to be able to pin to it. So what I'm going to do, probably the smaller one, the large one I had 2 pins in, so I need a bigger heart for that one. But I want to be able to pin this in place so it's not sliding around in the box. And so if I have something I can pin this to, I think it'll just make it a little steadier and a little nicer. So I can glue it down, but I want to have space to be able to slide the pin underneath and back out again, and that's why I'm not gluing in the center. I apologize. I get going and I tend to ramble and my videos take forever. I'm trying to improve that, which is why I've done some of the work ahead. So I've got my glue gun heating up, making a big mess on my counter, and I've got my paper pre-measured. I just totally glued my thumb to my paper. So I'm going to start cutting things out. The only other tool you would need to do this, obviously, is a ruler and a pencil to mark your paper. I also have some ribbon. I was thinking about this one, but I decided it doesn't match my paper color very well. So I have white. I always have white ribbon kicking around somewhere. I have my handy dandy cut anything huge scissors, and I have my wrapping paper. And this is the wrapping paper I buy. I bought this maybe like 5 years ago. It's a humongous roll because, of course, I love to shop at Costco. So I've been wrapping presents with this because this is one of my favorite, and it was in a package of like 2 for 6 years. I still have that much left. The thing I like the most about it is this. It has a grid on the back, so you can actually lay out your present, make sure it's squared against the edge, and you can cut in a straight line without a big issue. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So the first thing I'm going to do, obviously, is I'm going to cut my paper. Eventually I'm going to have, hopefully, links between the YouTube videos and the blog, because it's a lot quicker and easier for me really just to write a blog by typing it than it is to do all the technical stuff that I'm not good at. I could craft all sorts of cool things, but trying to make a video is just frustrating. So chances are a lot of my crafting posts on the blog might be of interest to you that you won't see on the YouTube channel. As much as I would love to be able to have a nice, easy setup where I can just turn on a camera and go, I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So, again, the website, the blog website, is Surviving Life Over 40. But that's not obviously what it's all about. It's all about life in general. There's been some funny things happening since I started my sudden menopause, and that's a whole other story. And so when I decided I was going to write a blog, I thought it would be a funny title, because that's kind of one of those things where if you're going through it yourself, you'll have a good laugh when you hear some of the things people are going through, because we tend to think we're the only one who goes through some of this stuff. So it's nice to know that we're not the only insane person going through crazy things. So, I don't know, maybe it's a misery loves company thing. So I've put my hot glue in the bottom. I'm going to fit this in to the bottom of my box, like so. I now have white liner in there. And I've got my two short sides for here. Somehow or other, I totally measured that wrong. Go figure. That one measured right. Got the sides right. I got the bottom wrong. So, as usual, I'm going to end up winging it a certain amount, but that's normal. Some of my other videos I've made the joke about it, but it's true. I'm kind of a fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants crafter. I don't have the patience for a lot of stuff. So, where I could, make a lot of effort and time and pre-plan a whole bunch of stuff, I don't always do that. Partly I get excited and I want to just go and do it. So that's what I do. And I think you find out that you can be a little more creative that way maybe, because as the issues come up, you find neat ways to deal with them. Whereas if the whole thing was just a pre-planned project, you know exactly how it's going to turn out, but you don't have those, I guess, serendipitous mistakes that turn into something really cool that happens when you're flying by the seat of your pants. Not everybody can deal with that kind of thing. I personally just can't deal with things that take a long time. What's the word? There's a term for it. Instant gratification. I like instant gratification. I really don't want to have to be doing the same thing forever, which is why I like little things like the beads. A lot of my problem, I think, is that I get distracted by something else. I see something else and I say, oh, I like that. I'd like to try to do that. And sometimes I leave projects halfway through simply because I found something else that I think is exciting and I want to try. And then I never get back to the first project. So it's a bad habit. If I do small, short projects, like something like this, then I'm less likely to skip out of it halfway through. So, this is how we're turning out so far. It's not perfect, but it is all nice and white on the inside. And of course I have the one that was a little too short, so I used a scrap piece to make one end. And now I'm going to overlap, I think, to get the other one the right size. No idea how I measured that wrong, unless, I don't know, maybe it curves in or angles in or something at the bottom. but I'm going to work with it, or make it work, whichever way you want to look at it. And when I'm done, it's all going to be covered in white regardless of how it got there. So this is the last one that has to go in. I don't worry about the little strings on the glue gun. I find that if they're still warm, when you try to pull them, you just end up pulling off a whole big long pile of stuff. If you let them cool and go back later, they pluck off pretty easy. So here's my center. As I said, it's all nice and white. It's not perfect, but it's all nice and white. And theoretically, they're going to be looking at the gift. They're not going to be looking at the corner of the box. So I'm just going to put some glue around the outside edge, as I said, of my heart. And I'm going to glue it into the center of the box and tap it down. Hopefully that makes it nice and easy for me to just pin one of the brooches right onto the heart. Oops, so there was that. There's that part done. I can turn off, excuse me for a sec, turn off my glue gun because it'll just sit there dripping glue all over. Drives me crazy. Usually I end up, what I've got is a little piece of parchment paper that I stick underneath it just so that it doesn't have this big pile of goop all over the counter. So, at this point, we're moving on to the wrapping paper. And like I said, it's handy because it has the little grid. So I'm going to lay this on the grid, and I'm going to make sure I have enough paper to go up and over the edge, like I normally would. Turns out I need like 4 of the cubes, which is where it's wonderful, because I can line this up, 4 from one side, 4 from the top, and then roll out enough to do 4 on the other side. 2, 3, 4, that puts me here. So then you can just cut along the grid. I don't know why I'm really kind of anal about present wrapping. I think that as much as the reason I do homemade gifts, I think that taking a little extra effort or time when you wrap your present just makes it really special. Not because, I mean, the wrapping is important by itself, but because they know they're important enough to you that you made the extra effort to make it pretty. And that's partly why I think I love doing all these little crafty things at Christmas. I'd give gifts to people every day if I could. I just like giving gifts to people, and if I put a whole bunch of effort into making a pretty gift and then toss it into a box that's not well wrapped, somehow it just doesn't seem right. So I've gotten into this little thing where I'm really kind of crazy about my wrapping. And here I'm starting to wrap things and I haven't got my tape. So I'll be right back in a sec.